Hey, remember when we used to do Rumor Wave? Yeah, me neither. Now, there's an interesting rumor that's come out recently. It's a very long read. I'll leave a link for you guys in the description below. It's to a Reddit post of a person who's kind of goes through what they have heard from sources, right? That's what we always hear from legitimate sources or sources they trust heavily that's close to, I guess, the game world, whether it's developers, studios, whoever. Now, normally, you kind of look at these and you go, maybe, that's fine, because usually it's people who just randomly post and they've never been right about something before. However, it appears that this person was correct in guessing or knowing somehow that the Ninja Turtles were going to show up in Injustice 2, something that I don't think anyone would really guess. No one would say, hey, here's the third character, it's going to be the Ninja Turtles, all four of them. Most people kind of laughed at that, obviously, and from what I could tell, there was a post made a week ago on the Injustice 2 forum on the PlayStation 4, and yeah, it says it's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So this person must know someone or something somewhere as to what's happening in the game world and developers and stuff. But I want to take a look at this one in particular because there are some interesting things on there. Now, there's some stuff on there that seems pretty obvious even to myself, including things like Resident Evil 2 Remake. We won't see it now. It's a third-person game, though, and maybe next year. That's what a lot of us believe to be happening. There's also one where they're talking about how there's pressure on Game Freak to get Pokemon out in 2018. I think a lot of us have already put those puzzle pieces together as well because we see the supposed amount of production that's going to happen, you know, up 25 to 30 million. Yeah, we kind of assume that Metroid or Pokemon is going to be out next year, more than likely Pokemon. But there were some really interesting ones on here. The one that I thought was really interesting is that Devil May Cry 5 will be coming, according to them, sometime later this year. Possibly PlayStation Experience will see an announcement. If not there, I guess sometime they'll just announce it randomly out of nowhere. But PlayStation Experience seems like a great place for that. Now, again, these are all rumors from a person, so, you know, take it with a grain of salt, all that stuff. But that's kind of interesting to see that PlayStation Experience might house some interesting announcements, including Devil May Cry 5, and the other one that is very interesting to me, Soul Calibur VI. And the reason it's very interesting to me is not only is it going to the PlayStation, but according to them, it's also going to the PC, which is pretty cool, and it's also going to the Nintendo Switch, but not the Xbox One. Now, that would be odd. However, the Xbox One isn't known for selling games like that right now. Even Doom, according to a lot of places, struggled to reach 1 million copies. Now, they also said about the Switch version, Link would be returning as their special guest character. If you don't know, Soul Calibur generally brings in guest characters from different brands or franchises. That's why we saw the Star Wars characters in there. That's why we saw Spawn, Hayachi, and Link all enter the arena at one point. Link was a very popular character. I remember it was pretty cool to see Link kind of appear in the game on the GameCube version. And yeah, Link would be a perfect character to bring in here because I don't think you bring someone like Mario in, but Link makes a ton of sense to bring in here. And I also wondered if maybe PlayStation would add a character as well. Maybe the main character from something like Horizon Zero Dawn, for example, was my thought. But the fact that Soul Calibur 6 could be coming to the Switch has to be interesting to a lot of people, especially if that shows up. I don't think it'll be announced that way at PlayStation Experience. They would probably announce Soul Calibur 6 at the PlayStation Experience as a PlayStation game, and then in the proposed, we keep assuming that there is some kind of Nintendo Direct in January. That's probably where we'd see Link. Maybe they, when they announce the PlayStation Experience, they then put on their website the Nintendo Switch symbol, but nothing else, and then we wait to, you know, the Nintendo Direct in January to find out that Link is in the game and, you know, gameplay and all that stuff. But I do think Soul Calibur would do pretty well on this. I mean, we saw what happened with Street Fighter, right? It was also mentioned very briefly that Dragon Ball FighterZ is already, like, underway being ported to the Switch, which is very interesting since it's not even out yet. Maybe they decided, oh, we can start porting it in Unreal while we finish up this game, although I think the game is mostly done. But still, it's a little odd to start that development now when they're probably trying to push really hard to get this game out. But they may have like a separate team just getting the port job started. And then according to them, it probably won't be out till next year anyway, like autumn or winter time. So that would give them enough time, I think, to get that all done if they start porting it now. But Dragon Ball FighterZ, I think, is pretty clear that a lot of people want that. And I do think Bandai understands that, so that's probably the most likely out of everything here, to be honest, is the fact that Dragon Ball FighterZ is probably getting ported to the Switch, and the porting has probably already started in some way, whether they're drawing it up, you know, on their whiteboards, or they're going through Unreal to see how everything's compatible. I'm sure that's happening. Now they go on to talk about The World Ends With You 2, which would be pretty cool, I think. I would be curious to see how they would do that on the Switch, because from what I remember, that used the dual screen configuration on the DS a lot. That was like one of the core components. So I'd be curious to see how they move it over to the Switch and turn it into a one-screen experience. I'm sure they can, but I would just be curious to see what that looks like. They also talk about how Mother 3 is done and localized and everything, but it just hasn't released now. If you remember, last year we were supposed to see, apparently, we really started hearing about it, and then leading up to their big event where they revealed games and stuff for the Switch, apparently Mother 3 was supposed to be there, according to people like Laura Kate Dale and Emily Rogers. It didn't show up, and now we hear this person talking about how Mother 3 is done and localized. I'm wondering if that's going to be something that they put up on the Virtual Console as one of the big selling points, which we're going to talk about here, because they mentioned the Virtual Console as being more of a Netflix service. Think of like the Xbox Game Pass, which I really like. I think the Xbox Game Pass, super worth the money. Like $10 and you get a ton of games, and you download them directly to your system, is awesome. And I do think some of these companies are going to move towards these service-based, game services that they're doing, like Game Pass, and I think Virtual Console would work well that way, like a Netflix service. Maybe you pay 10 or 15 bucks a month and you get a massive library of games. I think people would prefer that to a degree, especially if you can download it to your system and it only has to check in every now and then. That way, if you're not at home and you're on the go, you could still play something like Super Metroid, right, without having to be near an internet connection. But I'm curious where you guys fall on that one. Would you rather just buy the game, or would you rather pay a monthly service like Netflix and just be able to pick from a whole slew of games, kind of like the Sega Channel? They also mentioned Animal Crossing. Apparently that is coming next year. Now, the mobile game is going to be releasing at the end of this year, and maybe there's some way that they can tie that in. They did kind of mention how they want everything to work together. So Animal Crossing, I think, would make sense next year. It would just help to kind of just bolster their lineup. I don't think Animal Crossing is one of their massive games that sell systems, much like Zelda, Mario, and I guess even at this point you could say Metroid Prime. But it is something like you would consider a mid-range or AA game, you could say, that would go along well, I think, with Kirby and Yoshi to kind of just fill out the gaps for next year. They also talk about Blizzard porting Hearthstone. That makes a ton of sense. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet, to be honest. The Switch has a touchscreen, or of course has IR porting, or you can play it on the TV. But it's set up as an ARM processor, so most of the design is probably already done since it's on portable devices at this time using ARM chips. So I would be shocked if it doesn't come over. It makes a ton of sense. Blizzard would make a lot of money from it, and it would just give people something else to download for free and play. So yeah, that'll probably be here next year. They talk about Metroid Prime and us getting early footage of it in January. So we would see something during that January Direct that we all assume is happening at this point. And we've heard this before. I remember seeing this somewhere else where somebody talked about how Metroid would get some kind of early footage. I think it was on NeoGAF, people were doing their like ban me posts, and they were like, I'm just going to drop all this stuff and leave. All this info they had, and one of them was that Metroid Prime would be shown at January's Direct. So that makes a lot of sense. The one that really caught me off guard is that apparently Nintendo is working alongside Bandai Namco to help develop Metroid Prime 4, which was very interesting to me. Now, it's not new for Nintendo to call on other companies to help them develop these things. It's happened with Metroid before, with Team Ninja, I remember, worked on it before. But to have Bandai Namco, that's interesting. Now, of course, Bandai has helped them with Smash Bros. Straight up, so it's not uncommon for Bandai to work with Nintendo internal developers or anything. So I'm curious if that actually comes true. That's one of the big reasons I want to bring this stuff up. It's because I like to see if any of this stuff actually comes true. And the biggest one is we should see something at PlayStation Experience, which makes me excited. Soul Calibur VI would be really cool to see there, right? I think that'd be really neat. Devil May Cry 5 would be cool. And according to them, we won't see Resident Evil 2 Remake. But keep those two games in mind for about a month from now when we will stream it here on the channel. So if you're subscribed with notifications on, you'll probably see that stream pop up. It's December 8th or 9th. I'll have to double check the stream date. So we should see Devil May Cry 5, and we should see Soul Calibur 6. But let me know what you guys think about these rumors down in the comments. Do any of them seem likely? Do you think a lot of them are just hoaxes and they're just messing around or anything? Some of them seem... The thing about these rumors here is if they're just making this up because they got the turtles correct in the DLC for Injustice 2, which is super weird to guess that. I wouldn't be able to guess that, but in this case, they at least kept everything realistic, right? There's nothing crazy going on in here, nothing out of this world that they're talking about. So that is the one thing I'll give them credit for. If they're making these up, they're not getting too far out there. But I'll leave the stuff down in the description, guys. You want to check the link. They did talk about some other things that I think is still dumb. The fact that Street Fighter V will have other DLC updates, and then Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which, by the way, should have... The DLC in that is so stupid now. That game has tanked hard. There are some rumors going around about sales, and it's not good. So, I don't really care too much about those games. But they're talking about more downloadable characters, which probably were cut from the latest game. But thanks, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'm very curious to see what you think about these rumors, and I'll see you guys next time.